Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Path of Exile 2 video, and yeah, all hell has broken loose. There's fire everywhere, not just on Reddit, but then again, that's just the standard state of Reddit. Twitter, YouTube, Twitch streams everywhere, in-game, global chat, you name it, everything's on fire. Most people are seemingly not very happy with the current state of the game. However, GGD has issued a few changes to a lot of things that's going down. Most importantly is a life fix to lowering the life of monsters throughout the campaign, which I think is going to be a very, very good solution to the issue that we're seeing in the acts in general. I feel like I wanted to make a video to talk about a few things, but also raise some other concerns, which most people haven't seen yet. That I've experienced and caused quite a lot of frustration from my end. So I wanted to say that I played as a straight Contagion, leveling as a witch, and good lord, that shit does a lot of damage. And with the end of them lowering the HP of minion enemies, is going to make that ridiculously good. I then did a lot of testing to see what kind of minions we could do and how they worked in a full transition around Act 3, and it was rough. We finally managed to get a functional approach that was actually pretty good. I didn't like the playstyle of it that much, but it was pretty good. And then once I got to the end game of like mid-cruel acts, rather, it was pretty speedy. It was pretty comfy. Most things just went away. And then this was despite the life buff still being there, or the life state being fixed, if you will, because this still hasn't gotten in at the time of this recording. However, this buff, or this note, or this hotfix rather, is saying that it's going to taper off. Let's see what they're saying. This results in all monsters in the end game having the same life as before this change, indicating that this is all about the campaign, which I thought was pretty fair, because the end game I was playing before this kicked in was expected to be the same as it is now, right? However, damage approach for minions felt lackluster. So I decided to invest and heavily focus on offensive scaling on my character. I am sitting on, what level am I? I'm level 69. Nice. And I have a level 15 gem with +4 for my gear. Now, I'm not Captain Resistances, and I have Enfolding Dawn and +2 for my helmet. I have Spirit on my amulet. I basically went balls deep on just focusing on offensive scaling to compensate the lack of defensive stuff. I have a 5 socket as well, and I have 429 Spirit, which is quite a lot. Now, I'm a little squishy, and I was fine with that just to see how well we could make the minions perform. So the minions are significantly higher level than they would have if I would have focused on my own personal defense, starting with 0 modded, like white tier 1 maps. So I was like, okay, let's start easy and then ramp it up to see where the brick wall I'm gonna bash my head in is gonna happen. And to my surprise, the wall I was hitting was just straight up from those tier 1 maps that were no mods on them. I had situations where my entire minion army died versus a pack of 3 packs of white monsters. No rares, no magic packs. Now, granted, this only happened once, but still. And 3 packs of white monsters wiped out my entire army. I went back a second time and ran 3 clerics to keep the fuckers alive. And, well, that didn't change shit. They wiped those as well. So I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe there's some overtuned mob. Maybe there's some overtuned rare. But there was no rare. Maybe there's some overtuned mod. Then I realized there is no mods. They're white monsters. So I was like, okay, maybe that's not an issue then. Maybe the issue is something else. Maybe I'm missing something. Positioning or whatever. Right? Fine, I move on. I engage with what I refer to as bullet sponges, which is what a lot of people refer to as the white monsters, but these are rares. And rares were very bullet spongy. Essentially, my damage wasn't enough. So I started looking at what was happening, and essentially, my minions are doing so little damage that they are unable to kill enemies fast enough to maintain their own survivability. Enemies are slamming on them so much that not even 3 clerics was able to keep them alive with their new changed heals or resurrect them in time. And as soon as a couple of minions died that the clerics couldn't keep up with resurrecting, the issue just obviously ramped and escalated, and it's just a domino effect. You know what happens to a minion player when their minions are gone? The enemies will go for you unless they already have. You're running at this point. Then your minion spawns behind you, and the enemies will keep running at you, which is fine. You'll just kite the enemies around in a circle around your minions. It's just that the enemies are faster than I am, even with Blink with second wind. So I have 2 different blinks on it. And despite this, and 25% movement speed in my boots, I was unable to stay away from them long enough before I died. And during that time, kiting around my entire army of minions that are now not being attacked, the enemies their HP barely moved. And so I was like thinking, maybe this is because the mods were specific. Then I realized the maps I'm running doesn't have any mods. And then I was thinking maybe it's because the rares were pretty tanky. They didn't have any specific tanky mods. And it all just gives me flashbacks and PTSD to Lake of Calandra League with Arch Nemesis from PoE 1, which is my reaction when I was reading the changes they were doing to rares. And it just, to me, feels really awkward that I can have this focus on offensive scaling, and they can't kill the enemies fast enough. And enemies can just slap the shit out of my minions, despite these investments, on a 0-modded tier 1 map. I hope I'm doing something wrong, because I've been live for soon to be 25 hours. I don't know. I've been awake for just over 30 hours at this point. And I'm a little frustrated, to say the least. However, GHAZZY are making changes and responding to feedback. However, that feedback is coming from people barely touching campaign and quitting because they're very angry, rightfully so. And they're making responses to that. How long before people go through the changes to this and actually get to the endgame and experience what I just experienced? So I just wanted to make that comment about that is the current state that I'm experiencing. And it's been pretty wild to struggle on tier 1 maps. Now, I've been told that not every build has this issue, but I don't know what to say. And I'm bending over backwards, and I feel like, you know what, this is up my alley. It's minion builds. I should solve this. And maybe I'm just too tired. Maybe it's something obvious I'm missing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too naive and thinking this is on me. I don't know. I'm a little confused. So after this video, I'm going to go to bed. I think. Probably. And we'll see what happens. However, that said, let's talk about the campaign, or the progression of there. I think that in general, the approach of the difficulty is, to me, quite enjoyable, at least on bosses. I actually genuinely enjoyed fighting bosses. There were several campaign bosses where I got to engage with new mechanics I had never seen before. I've never seen them do that before because I've always killed them so fast. And so that was pretty fun. I don't know if they've added those abilities, but like fights never lasted more than a handful of seconds before, so that was pretty cool. However, it is pretty punishing when a fight lasts a couple of minutes rather than 10 seconds. And I think that could be very punishing and detrimental for newer players. So I'm not sure how the reaction is for those type of players. And since I can't speak for them, nor can I find myself seeing how they experience it from their perspective, I just want to point out, from my biased opinion, from a blaster perspective, I enjoyed that. I didn't enjoy engaging with raid bosses before the actual boss. And when I talk about raid bosses, I'm talking about packs of white monsters, where I had to call in, 2 tanks, 3 off tanks, and 60 healers to keep them alive, whilst my minions were hitting them, being the DPS group, part of the raid group. So that was a bit weird. Worst was when there was magic monsters. They were even worse. Like, we're talking going in 10 people in a 40-man raid. And, let's not talk about the overtuned rares in this case. But these things are getting fixed. They are getting fixed, but bosses are untouched, is my understanding. So I'm not sure how other people react to that. So I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts now. Leave a comment down below in the comments. Leave a comment down below. Comment. Again, I'm tired. Drop a comment down below what you guys feel about it, because I liked it. But at the same time, I saw some arguments on Reddit talking about how they don't want the game to be Dark Souls, right? They don't want it to be a Souls-like, and I get that argument as well. I mean, it is an ARPG, right? I don't really know what else to say about it, because I feel like Ultimately, I believe the argument is going to land on one thing, and I'm a little annoyed with it, and that is that GGG has for the past decade been very adamant about rather making things too difficult, and then they will respond to feedback by making it easier, and that is well received, which is just how it is. Because if they release something that is too easy and they say, hey, we're going to make it harder, that's going to be a bad taste. People don't like that. And they've done this multiple times over, and I think that's pretty good. I just feel like this time it was a little over, like, it's over the top. And I find it kind of crazy. Like, a lot of people stopping in the early stages, and I don't know what to say when it comes to the end game part of it, but it feels so crazy to me. Just the general balance of the feel of the game, because I feel like with the same comments I made when we talked about the patch notes, we're not incentivized to do combo play style, meaningful combat, or whatever you want to, or whatever words you want to use. We are forced into it, and more often than not, the combo play style, meaningful combat, doesn't feel like the payoff for doing it is representative of the work we put in to pull that off. And this is, stretches beyond other classes and whatnot. So I can only speak for the Lich that I've been playing. It just feels really awkward that the payoff is not worth the trouble of doing those combos. That's kind of like the position I'm at. I also feel like the game is in a position where it is an ARPG. That's not changing. This is an ARPG, which means that as you progress your character, get levels, get gear, and improve your character in general, you're supposed to feel stronger, clear faster, hit harder, be able to take hits better. At some point, you get to a stage where you're so crazy overpowered. Like Jonathan and Mark said, they want this. They don't mind people having overpowered builds, killing a boss in 14 seconds, but they have to earn it. But with the current state, I feel like, how do we even get to that point? I don't feel like that we get there because if there's like delays. Look at curses. It's a 1.5-second delay before a curse even takes place. There are so many delays and it changes in the patch notes that is forcing us to stutter play. It's stop and go. Huntress is designed to jump back, but we want to go forward, forward, forward when we have the strength for it. But the game is not allowing us to go forward, forward, forward because it's consistently holding us in place. But no, you got to stop because that's a pack of white monsters you now have to deal with and use your entire toolkits to handle. It just feels really awkward to me how they're going to maintain this idea of meaningful combat without introducing these kind of forced or enforced delays on things like curses, for example, requiring combo play styles. And that just makes it really awkward to me. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, and I'm a little concerned moving forward with it. On top of what I mentioned earlier in this video, I feel like I'm ranting because I'm a little frustrated and mad. I hope you guys can read between the lines here a little bit. I was curious about you guys' take on the campaign stuff with the bosses specifically during all of this insanity, and also a little PSA of my experience in the endgame, being as fatigued as I am. Hit the like button, subscribe for more content, all that stupid shit that YouTube loves, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, stay safe, keep rocking.